Welcome to the Aging Gracefully podcast, virtual edition, your source for cutting-edge information on healthy aging, anti-aging, and innovative treatment options. I'm your host, Brandy Nielsen, and I'm honored to explore the evolution of anti-aging and longevity medicine through actual patient and expert provider experiences that can help redefine how aging looks and feels in our personal lives and beyond. Today, we welcome the founder of Nootricious, that's Nootricious, Matt Tack. Matt is a nutritionist and lover of all biohacking. Here with us today to talk about that, as well as longevity and performance. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Brandy. Thanks, Ralph. Excited to be on Aging Gracefully.
And my co-host, my husband, Ralph Smith.
Hello, everyone. It's always good to be here. Matt, welcome to our show.
I appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this, so I'm excited to dig in.
Fun. So, Matt, digging in, tell us about you and your journey to becoming the founder of Nootricious and your love of biohacking, and what even is Nootricious and biohacking?
Yeah, no, Nootricious has been a long journey. It's actually been a 2-year journey, but I mean, really what it came down to is just a pain point that I had in my life. I have 3 girls, one of which is right behind me. I have a few photos. So I am a girl dad, but our 3-year-old now, she's particularly spunky, and she was a horrible sleeper, just absolutely horrible. And I'm not going to lie, my wife were at just at heads, going 8 months, 9 in with this child because she was super colicky. And so I've been an early riser, but not a 3 a.m. early riser. But with lack of sleep, what I decided to do was I always trained early. I started running and I ran like crazy. So I would wake, the baby would be up, obviously crying, and my wife wanted to sleep. So what I would do is I would just grab her out of her crib and I would throw her in the bob, and we would run. And before that, I never ran like a mile. I was just like, it was always in my head. Oh, I can, I'm not a runner, right? And so she's about to turn 4 now, but I would start running. I would put podcasts in, I would start running. And I eventually started running like 5 miles a day. It was ridiculous. I can visualize the route that I had in my head with this child. And then I would come home. She would almost fall asleep instantaneously, obviously. And I would come home after a long ride and got a podcast in. And it was like 4 a.m. at that point. And so I would start reading books. And so I'd park her inside the house. I'd roll in the stroller, park it, and then I would go to my chair and start reading. And so I've always been like this problem solver. Like, what is it? I've had these like really crazy ideas, and my wife's like, all right, let's park it. Let's not do that one. But I started eating like my oldest girl's pouches like quite a bit, just because after I would get done with like a long run or a workout, I just want something to palate myself, not like a protein shake or anything. And then sometimes in the morning I would want, get up, I would be hungry and I wanted to hit something maybe before workout. And so I started reading the book, essentially How to Build a Brand, right? And with me, if I think I have a good idea or I think I want to do something, I just like, I'll jump in, I'll just do it. And so I had a trainer at that point doing kettlebell training. And I had this idea. I'm like, well, what if I had a pouch, right, that gave me some just quality, efficient ingredients, no artificial anything, that I could get after a long run, or maybe even the middle of a run, or even right as I go into a workout. And so I was like processing through and thinking through this. And I explained it to my trainer. He's like, dude, I think that's a really good idea. Like, that's one of your not bad ideas. And so this pain point of this child, then getting me into a love of cardiovascular and running, and then weight training as well, and a combination of the both, kind of led me through this journey of what Nootricious now is today. And it's meant to optimize, right? The human mind, the human brain, to get ingredients. And we can dive into the ingredients a little bit later, but that is ultimately what's behind Nootricious, is to really get quick, efficient, really good optimizing ingredients in your body very quickly. And then the underlying element that we separate ourselves with is the nootropic piece. So over the past 3, coming on 4 years now, I've really dove into what nootropics is and how they're adaptogenetics, and then specifically the relevance of mushrooms within nootropics. And so that's where we hang out. That's our playground, is the mushroom side of nootropics.
I
And
love
that's
mushrooms.
what we love
I
them.
can hang out with mushrooms too.
So we add mushrooms into the pouches, and then the biohacking piece is just longevity performance. So whatever you can do for
Hold it.
longevity.
Biohacking.
That's right.
Biohacking. Explain biohacking. What is actually biohacking? Do you hack
Yeah,
bio something?
it's a bio. So your genetic makeup, everyone's genetic makeup is obviously similar in many ways, but different, and what's make you unique, right? But then there's these like precursors that ultimately, through either food sources or genetics, that we're all dying in some way.
Yes.
But how do we accelerate that? Well, that's obviously through not exercise and maybe a lack of nutrition, right? Or how do we decelerate that? So take your foot off the gas and really slow that process down where your body is thriving. So there's different components that you can do. The main things are in biohacking is if you consistently exercise, that's a form of biohacking, right? Consistently making good decisions with nutrition, that's biohacking. And then there's also other layers that I've added in over the past years: cold water therapy, heat therapy. That's a version of biohacking. So there's a range of it, but it's really slowing down that aging process. And that's what I'm about. I want to feel good for as long as possible.
I love that. And a couple of things I want to go back on that you said, but one of those is you said we start dying, as soon as we're born. And I say we start aging as soon as we're born.
Oh.
It's so to age gracefully. My definition of aging gracefully is actually doing something about it so that I can, right? I don't want to just let it all go and fall apart, because as we're exposed to different environments, at different, modifying our lifestyle or not modifying our lifestyle, if we don't do something about it, those later years are not going to be great, and they're not going to be graceful either. So that's what aging gracefully means to me. And really, to understand that, hey, we're aging as soon as we're born, we're dying as soon as we're born. But I want to roll back to something else, because I think it's really interesting. And this is about you running in the middle of the night or the middle of the morning with your baby. Did you really get up and it's pitch black out and put the baby in the stroller and just start jogging?
I mean, that's 100% what I did. I honestly, I'm a big believer in when you get into a marriage, right? Now I'm faith-based, man. I love Lord. So then it becomes like, how do I make my life epic? How am I abundantly living in all areas of life, right? And so that's when God started really, really pulling at my heart, was like, if we're at each other's throats right now over this child, what can I do to make the difference, right? What is something I can actionably do to make a difference in this? And so I would always, and part of it, like selfishly, I would go to the gym at 5 a.m. My wife's breastfeeding the baby, crying, right? She's trying to put him back down, and I'm at the gym working out, right? And I'm like, dude, not a good habit structure.
Right.
Leave my crying baby at home with my wife. As soon as I shut the door, the baby started crying. I'm at the gym, not a good scenario. So then it comes back to, it's like, all right, well, how do I abundantly still live in my marriage? How does it come back home? And so it was like, all right, when this baby wakes up, I have a decision. Like, I can wake up with it and give my wife some extra sleep. And so that literally, that's what registered, was I need to be the one to be the action taker. And so I was like, all right, I don't care if it's 3 a.m, 3:30 a.m, whatever it is. There's an intention to this to serve somebody else. And then I can live abundantly in my marriage. And so I have a story before that too, of like how things cultivated. I was in a really, really bad place. I think 26, 27 years old. Really, like, I wanted to divorce my wife. I was like praying to God. I was like, I don't want to be part of this. I like, marriage wasn't like a healthy mindset to me. And over the past 10 years, I've really focused on, like, I don't want to live that way in a cynical form. I want to live abundantly. So when this baby at 30, at 32, came into my life, and I'm like, I can either get out there and start running and like collab, create two habit structures together. I'm getting a good workout in, running, and my wife is able to get sleep. That was really, really like a real game changer for me. So it was 3:30 in the morning, pitch black, and I have this infant child, and I'm going with my AirPods in. And
I wish I was driving on by, but I'd be sleeping at that time. And then to see a dad strolling and jogging with his baby girl at 3 a.m, let that be an encouragement to anyone who has a newborn and you feel stuck. You can't do anything because this baby might be crying or need you constantly. And now you're just sitting at home, and maybe you used to exercise and now you don't exercise anymore. Just put your baby in the stroller and get out and go.
And go.
Be like Matt. That's the thing. Be like Matt, not Mike, Matt.
I love that.
Ralph, and you and Ralph have a relationship, and I want our viewers to hear about that too.
Ralph. Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah.
No, you go. I'm calling on you, Ralph.
Oh, you are? Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. Our relationship started a little while back. I would even say less than a year ago. And we met in a local community environment called Crest Community. And Matt and I just kind of hit it off from the beginning. We have so much in common. We're both men of faith, but we also are both men that want to live our best life at whatever age we are. We want to embrace this aging process. We want to, understand how our body is responding to certain things as we age, whether it's testosterone or not, whether if it's mental challenges, things that cognition that we may be dealing with. And he and I just kind of hit it off. And then he mentioned to me that he wanted to launch this brand called Nootricious. And of course, it captivated me. I said, man, I really want to hear more about this. So that's where our relationship started. And I'm just, I'm excited to have him on the show and to give him an opportunity to explain a little bit more about Nootricious, because something that we didn't touch base on is what is Nootricious? I mean, it's a supplement. Is it a supplement brand or it's a consumer product? Matt, you actually consume it like a shake? Speak about that just for a moment.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's one of the first questions, right? It's always, what is it a supplement or how do you use it? For me, it's always, it's food. That's what it is. It's a satiating food. We wanted to make it taste good too. So it's more smoothie form. So you'll see Drive and Rejuvenate have smoothie base on it, but it's meant to be clean energy. So no artificial anything. And it's meant to get ingredients just in your body fast, right? So I'll give you a case in point. Like yesterday, I was running around and I was in that between zone of late lunch, early dinner, but you still wanted to get a workout in, right? And then you're like, man, I honestly don't know if I have the energy. I don't have anything in my stomach, but I don't want to eat a big meal before I go work out, right? And so I hit a pouch. That's when I hit a pouch. I'm like, dude, if I can get 80 calories in me that are just really solid, and I can get one form of energy up, meaning that glycative energy, then that allows me to go ahead into a workout, but not have a solid in my body, have a something small, finite, pureed that gave me that booster to go into a workout. So I love doing that. I work out super in the AM too. I just had 2 workouts yesterday, but 5:15 AM happens to me all the time being in Florida. You just wake up a little hungry. You just need a little bit of a booster, but you don't want to overeat, right? There's no point of overeating. And so it's a lot. It just allows me to get that little booster pre-workout, and then even on the backside, like a post-workout, where I can get more of a complex carb built in. So it's just highly efficient food sources, but not meant to be a supplement though, because honestly, at the end of the day, a lot of times what it becomes is a meal replacement.
Yes. And how simple was that answer, Ralph? It's food.
It's food. It's a meal replacement that comes in a pouch.
Yeah.
I call it a micro meal.
Micro meal. I love that. And I'm going to be honest with everyone. I think I tried. I sampled several of these packets you had. We were all at Cress, and
pouches.
And it reminded me of baby food. Yes, you have a banana flavor one, don't you? I think that
banana acai. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the one I liked, and it reminded me of baby food. And what is so interesting is you sharing the story of you took your daughter's pouch.
That's right.
And it reminded me of baby food. So it's super simple to eat and tasty. So you say it's an energy type of booster. So how about energy for clearing your brain? Does it help with your brain, not just your body and moving and energy? How about your brain?
Yeah, I love that. So our motto is fuel your brain, fuel your body. So
I didn't know that. I didn't know
you
that.
Didn't?
Nope.
Oh man, that's pretty good. So that is our motto. We are big, like I said, we said on the nootropic side. So it is that nootropic layer. That's the longevity mindset, right? There's a lot of science coming out on mushrooms now, not the psychedelic, the functional. So we put lion's mane and shiitake in there. That's the brain food component, right? So we want there to be an element of, hey, how do we decrease inflammation in the brain? Really get a little bit more cognitive recognition. And then also adding that fuel layer to the body. So the other good things, and this is one thing specifically about nutrition, is that we focus on fiber. So like fiber is a very, very key component to longevity. And your GI tract and your gut microbiome. So you want to make sure that you are getting, every American honestly should be getting between about 30 to 60 grams of fiber into their diet. So your major meal groups are that's where you gather a majority of the fibers that you need within a day to day. But this is a great source to get those, those mini fibrous daily allowances that allows you to micro meal. So for me, the one main thing behind this is I operate at a slight caloric deficit. So on a day-to-day basis, I am burning probably more calories than I'm actually physically taking in, right? It's the point to reduce inflammation. Inflammation is the aggressor to aging. And so that's ultimately, what allows these pouches to be so beneficial is that, hey, they're a finite amount, right? They can be utilized. And I'll be honest with you, they are not intended to like slurp down 10 of them at a time. Do not do that. Like as much as I want you to come back to us, that they are meant for longevity.
Right.
And so it's meant to just get enough, get that slight dopamine kick, and then allow your body almost to feel hungry, right? I think we miss out on that a lot of us, like just the American culture is like, we want to fill ourselves up so that we're so completely full, right? And that's really not healthy for your gut. And it's certainly not healthy for the rest of your body. So it just gives you a really efficient way. We don't add any additional sugars. So there's no sugars and then no artificial anything. There's no added sugars. So there's sugars within, obviously, the natural flavors of the banana acai and the sweet potato and the goji berries. But that's a little bit behind of like the kind of the macro micro of Nootricious and how it can fuel your day and the brain component.
Yeah. Speaking of the brain component, Ralph, you were mentioned to me that you had a conversation with Matt about the brain. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, as we're aging, right, cognition can be affected. And I was just, I think I was asking about the importance of sleep and, proper nutrition and things that could or could not have a negative impact on the way that we perceive life. As we're processing our thoughts, and we have all this stimuli that comes in on a daily basis. If you're not fueling the brain appropriately, what happens? So that was a question that I had for Matt, and he really gave me some profound responses.
Yeah, one of the brain is like such a cool thing to me, because it's really like it's a muscle. I go back, and this might be a little bit of a rabbit trail, but I asked somebody the other day, where is your soul? Right?
Mm.
And they're like, from, just a faith component, like, where is your soul? Is it like kind of on the outside of you? Is it between your head and your heart? Is it like in your right toe? Is it in your gut? Where's the soul piece? So then that becomes like, I think it might be like kind of in this dome area of my brain, but like, if you really think about it, it's not attached. So then how do we just look at the muscle? Just looking at the muscle of the brain and how you're training the brain, right? And then you think about it, you're like, oh, well, if our muscles are the same, then our brains are kind of the same, right? And we choose out of our soul to kind of treat them differently, right? And so we create these habit structures, but it's really a brain component of different chemicals firing at any given time. And so this is what was really cool to me, is that, there's that going back to like the pitfall in my life. I feel like in my mid-20s of my wife wasn't tall enough. I felt like I deserved a little bit better. These things, right? That I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't be marrying my high school sweetheart. So I started telling myself these, and these feedback loops started occurring, but that occurred with one thought, right? Just one thought went through my head, and then I allowed it to compound.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking, I'm like, but now 10 years later, I like literally came to the point, I think it was at 27, of like almost like utter destruction, of like, I just was unhappy. And I was like, man, is this just my thought process? And so I have to give the testimony first, because this is how I started understanding and really like why I love the brain so much. But one day I prayed to God, right? And I said, God, let me get a divorce from this woman. I'm just going to make a decision to get a divorce, or I'm going to do something about it. And so I decided to go into this Celebrate Recovery program, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna go into Celebrate Recovery. That's for drug addicts. And then I'm like, well, it comes back down to like, I'm a drug addict, right? Because of the way I'm interpreting my brain, like literally, there's no difference there. So I was like, all right, God, like if this is what it is, I'm gonna go into this. So throughout this study, I went into Celebrate Recovery, and I went into I think there was a 16-week study, right? And what came out of that was one mission. I am going to start telling my wife how much, number one, I love her and how beautiful she is, whether I think it's true or not. At that moment, whether I thought about it's true or not, I am going to be training my reticular activating system, that my long-term, and within your hippocampus, I was talking about the hippocampus and the reticular activating system, that like those truths are no longer truth anymore. And then I'm going to start creating new feedback loops that in my brain, that she is worthy. Right. So then that literally at 27 years old, I started doing that like every day. So like I would wake up and I'd be like, man, babe, you are so beautiful. I love you. Didn't really feel it, it probably, to be honest with you, probably even a year down the road, we had gotten married. I got married at like, I think we were 27. Yeah. So 10 years at 27. So we had to get married, but I woke up and started saying that one thing every day. By the way, this is our first year of marriage. So like I was freaking about ready to get divorced first year of marriage.
Wow.
And so anyways, I started waking up, and then I'm going to just fast forward the story. 10 years later, I have new feedback loops, right? My wife is smoking hot, and I truly believe it. I love hanging out with her. She's like my favorite person to hang out with. Like, I would not want to hang out with anyone else but her. I want to go on a vacation with her. I don't want to be around anybody else but her, because God has given her to me, right? And so it's this whole thought process that I just train my muscle to say, hey, I'm not going to live in scarcity. I'm going to live in abundance. And it was literally creating these feedback loops of what I thought was, it was like a thought that was then producing no fruit, right? If I decided to go that route, it would have produced no fruit. But the reality is I got to make the decision that I got to produce fruit. And so I just started telling her that now, I'm not going to lie. It was probably about 2-3 years in where I'm like, dude, like, she's getting more attractive. Our sex life is getting better. Like, all these other things, right? I'm making a little bit more money, like all these things. Like, naturally, I was more optimistic about life, right? And it literally was because my brain's a muscle. I got to choose like what I was telling my reticular activating system, what I was imprinting within my hippocampus. And so my long-term memory is much different than what it was, 10 years ago, what I'm imprinting short-term, long-term. So it's really cool to think about now when I learn, like, I love, curiosity. I love curiosity, and I love learning new things, and I love talking to like awesome people like yourself. So now these new neural pathways are all forming in my brain, and hedonic hotspots are firing off because I get to do this stuff. So that's ultimately, I think, what I was talking about, Ralph, that day when I get all giddy about the brain.
And look at me now. I'm getting giddy just hearing you right now. It's so fascinating. And as I'm listening to you, I want to learn more about how Nootricious supports that, because I think it does. I mean, what you've where you have arrived in your journey with this new this pouch, and how it's going to fuel the brain and fuel the body. I think it's going to really supplement what you just mentioned, right? Reprogramming our thoughts. And when can you just speak to that for a moment? When you came up with the fact tables and the ingredients of your product, how does that actually fuel the brain?
Yeah, so the one major thing that I always focus on, and that's why I was, we talked about sleep. I think we talked about sleep that day too, and how imperative it is for the longevity of life, right? If there's one component that you have, it's going to be, sleep. If you can lock in your sleep, you can do a lot of things. And so and actually I was meeting with a client yesterday, a prospective client. And one of the things that he was not willing to give up is his 12 to 1 a.m. bedtime. And I'm like, wow, really? That, like, all things, 12 to 1 a.m. bedtime. And so that is a major component from a hormonal and chemical standpoint of what people miss out on. And I always focus on these things: cortisol, serotonin, melatonin. So I want to see how my body's operating and fluctuating with cortisol, serotonin, melatonin. And I start with melatonin. So I start with the bedtime. And the reason why I start with the bedtime is because I know that, like, that's the repair mechanism that's going to secrete the serotonin and cortisol levels that I need for the following day. So I personally go to bed at 9:30 every night. So, like, I have a set bedtime. Very rarely do I fall off track with that, because I know how it's going to impact a certain few things. And I know it probably is getting old for me talking about this, but the reason why I go to bed at 9:30 is because I know how I'm going to treat my wife, and I know how I'm going to treat my children with how much sleep I get the night before. And so if I can't treat people well, and specifically the people within my household, then, like, it's a shame on me, right? So I want to make sure I treat them well, because I truly believe my frequency needs to be at a high level within my household, and then even outside. So that's the reason why melatonin is such a key ingredient to, like, the necessity of life. And so that's what we focused on first. So within the pouches, now this is hard for me to like kind of say this because it trips people out a little bit. The Rejuvenate pouch is not meant just for like a night routine, but there's foods that secrete melatonin, right? Your body, through indirect sunlight and food, are creating building blocks to optimize your sleep. So you can have a sweet potato in the morning and not feel like you're falling asleep in the afternoon. The point is, you need to start building up your melatonin supply throughout the day in order to get proper sleep at night, right? So you can take an oral tablet, you can take melatonin-based supplements, but we wanted a pouch that like we could throw in serotonin and melatonin-based ingredients into that then stabilize that mood, preparing your body for sleep that night, right? So you can, again, have Rejuvenate in any of the day, but sweet potatoes, goji berries, tart cherries, chia, those are high in melatonin. So high serotonin, melatonin, that's what you want to have in your body, preparing your body for sleep. However, when you actually make the decision that I'm going to bed, that's when your body recognizes it. Again, your brain's a muscle. It'll recognize it. And when it's prepared and ready for sleep, that's when it starts kicking in your melatonin, right? And so you really, really have to promote that, but you really have to have the building blocks throughout the day to promote that, right? So the other thing is like banana, acai, and oats are really, really high in serotonin. So those aid in the process, right? But it's good to have those foods naturally within the supplies. And Nootricious just allows you to get those quick punches, those really optimized ingredients that then can prepare you for that. And then also during the day, serotonin is a great way to to stabilize your mood. And so, if you did need a pouch at any point in time, instead of going towards something that's going to give you maybe a little bit of brain fog, you can go after something that's nutritious and really healthy, just like these pouches, right? That are simple and easy and effective while you're on the go. So that's a little bit behind the thinking of like the ingredient loads of like what we were putting into these pouches. And then obviously they have to taste good. So we really think they taste good. And Brandy, I hope you liked it. I think you liked it.
I did. And from where do you source the ingredients for these pouches?
Yeah. So what we did is we sourced the ingredients pretty much from, so our co-manufacturer is in North Carolina. So we source predominantly around there. Majority of the sourcing is there. And then we have a mushroom farm as well. So we have a mushroom powder that we're going to be rolling out at the end of this month. So lion's mane is something that we're actually going to be growing ourselves. But predominantly within that region. And then we have a few manufacturers that are abroad as well.
I love that. And I'm glad you reminded me of mushrooms, because I want to make sure that everybody knows when I said I love mushrooms, I will hang out with mushrooms. I'm talking about those kind of mushrooms, not those psychedelic ones. I could never handle that ever. So one of the best things I'm learning from this conversation with you today is that I have a cool brain.
You have a really cool brain.
I have a cool brain, and so do you too. Matt, this is just really encouraging. Thank you for sharing about your personal life. Yeah. When I said earlier, be like Matt, I'm going to tell our listeners, if you're in a relationship, be like Matt.
I appreciate that.
It'll change a lot. So tell us just a little bit more about the longevity and performance side of things. You share that you started off saying that you trained early. Did you mean you trained early in life, or did you train early in the day? I know you said you trained early in the day, but was it early in life as well? that you
Yeah.
started training? And what did you start training at?
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up, because I think that's really important in terms of like overall longevity. I personally, yeah, I have trained for a long time, but teens at the end of high school going into my 20s, trained to put up as much weight as possible. And like, I mean, I literally just wanted to, like, I wanted to max out every time I went to the gym. I just wanted to get, like, I didn't even want to get lean muscle. I just wanted to be as big as possible. Right.
Oh, yes.
And so it, putting up exceptional amount of weight and then putting every oral supplement in my body just to like make that happen.
Mhm.
And then putting all these like pre-workout supplements in my body just to make that happen. Right. And now I know how destructive that is, right? That's not longevity thinking. And so I have trained, which I would not want to trade that, because like I think that was a good habit structure that I had. I always trained, but now the way I train is so completely different. So somebody asked me the other day, they asked me like, if you had to pick three things, like what would be those three things? And so I was thinking about it, and obviously sleep is number one, hands down. Like sleep, if I had to do one thing, I would lock in that sleep first. Two, I would have to say, and it's really that component of, I then go and exercise from a cardiovascular standpoint of getting yourself out of breath, as well as like strength training component. That is hands down number two. Some element of exercise has to be really, really number two. But what shocked people was this, like my third was caloric reduction. So it isn't necessarily even just fasting. It's like significant caloric reduction. And so I took on 3 clients yesterday, and I'm walking them through what I call my 75 days. It's actually something I came up with, and it's a 75-day, but it's a modification to what their intake is, and then an increase in output, right? So like anyone physically can lose weight if they write down predominantly what they eat on a daily basis, and then just do 90% of that and increase their energy, outtake. So meaning maybe go on an extra walk. I guarantee you're going to lose weight, right? You eat 90% of what you normally do, and you just go on an extra walk every day, you're going to lose weight. And so for me, that now I was 235 pounds. I was a big boy. I had a lot of weight on me. And now I range from 182 to 188 pounds. And I know when I'm 188 pounds, it's after dinner, because that's my biggest meal of the day. So, but from a nutritional standpoint, yeah, I'll tell you the truth. Like, my wife does a lot of the cooking. I am somewhat locked in, but mainly what it is I reduce my caloric intake dramatically over the last 5 years, like dramatically. And so that's how I know how my weight really can fluctuate, but my output is high as well. So I lock those things in. Now, from a longevity and performance standpoint, I've done a number of other things. And for the sake of the podcast, I'll say what I do, but like, I wouldn't recommend a newbie do this at all, right? I would literally, from a newbie standpoint, my recommendation is like literally as easy as setting a bedtime, and try to do that for like basically 30 straight days. Like, even if it's, you go to bed right now at 12 or 1 o'clock and you're fiddling around on your phone, like how can you go to bed at 11 o'clock and have a wind down period for 30 minutes before that, right? If you can do that for 30 days, like you're going to see dramatical improvements in your health. But what I do from a longevity and performance standpoint, I mean, I am tinkering right now, like from a lot of different things, but I just love it because I'm able to.
It may sound to those listening and watching like this is completely insurmountable. This is just way too much. He's saying way too much, but really if we want to just boil that down, it's lifestyle modification.
That's it.
Right. So doing something different to achieve a new or better goal. Right. So, and you don't have to just dive into all this at once. It's actually, you've explained, it's taken you a long time to get here and do this.
Insane.
Right. So, now I
8
understand
years.
what biohacking is.
That's biohacking right there. I'm nerdy about it.
Yeah, you're a biohacking geek.
I am, but this is so coming back and putting it into simple terms. I had a friend, and he like overweight, has drank a good amount for the past probably 15 years, right?
Alcohol, you mean?
Alcohol.
Yeah. Okay.
And so he decided 4 months ago that he's like, dude, I'm basically hitting rock bottom. I gotta make a lifestyle change, a lifestyle modification, right? So he stopped drinking. He's lost 20 pounds. What do you call that? Yeah. Biohacking, right? He literally made one change. I'm gonna stop drinking, and he made a lifestyle modification, lost 20 pounds. And that's biohacking, right? If he can continue that for whatever, and then add one more thing on, maybe in 6 months, maybe I'll start exercising. Lifestyle right? Modification. Exactly. Start exercising 2 days a week. Lifestyle modification that ultimately improves. It's literally that easy. Like you just do one thing, and things change. Lifestyle
and it leads to another. Yeah. And I've been hogging up this whole conversation, so I'm going to zip it and let Ralph ask you a question.
I wasn't, he's providing us with so much valuable information and insight. The only thing I would add to his last comment, when we think about lifestyle modification, is meal supplementation, add Nootricious 2 to 3 times a day.
Add Nootricious. Speaking of adding Nootricious,
there it is.
Tell our viewers and listeners, Matt, how they can connect with you, follow you, get some Nootricious packages.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Our website's nootup.com. So like it's hashtag nootup or nootup.com. You can go there, and that's the one way. You can also follow me personally. I'm at human.optimizer on Instagram. You can find me by my name, Matthew Tack, on Facebook. But all of relevant content there. And then we're really going to be focusing on our YouTube channel. It's something that I want to make just a really strong push in. So that again is at human.optimizer, and a lot of content will be on YouTube as well. And then we have our Instagram channels for Nootricious, or just at nootricious.co. So if there's anything going on, or we have promos or anything like that, you can make sure to follow us there, and we'll make sure you get some really good relevant content there.
And don't forget, it's Nootricious, Nootricious. And Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for letting me have fun with the Nootricious name. I love it. Sure. Thank you for sharing and everything about you. I hope that you have really made a change for not one, many of our viewers and listeners now, if they need lifestyle modification, that you have encouraged that. You've encouraged me and my cool brain.
I appreciate it.
Feel the brain.
One last time, be like Matt. Be like Matt.
Feel the brain. Noot up. NOOTUP.com.
Perfect.
Nootup.com. Noot up, baby.
I want to thank our viewers and listeners for tuning in, and encourage you to subscribe to the Aging Gracefully podcast and join us in exploring the latest developments in healthy aging, anti-aging, and innovative treatment options. Stay young, stay healthy, and stay tuned. Till next time.